When a massive factory machine broke down and every expert failed to fix it, the last person anyone expected to save the day was the farmer's son sweeping the floors. But what happened next would change a struggling company forever. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel as a sign of support. It was a sweltering July morning in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the massive Halberton manufacturing plant was humming with tension. The main production line had come to a grinding halt after one of the facility's most expensive machines, a custom-built robotic press valued at over $6 million, suddenly stopped working. Jason Moore, the newly appointed CEO of Halberton Industries, stood beside the immobile behemoth, frustration etched on his face. Surrounded by engineers and mechanics, he barked into his phone, demanding updates from the repair team on standby. The press was crucial for fulfilling a government contract. Every hour of downtime meant thousands in losses and a step closer to a lawsuit. Despite their efforts, none of the tech specialists could identify the cause. Jason, a former Wall Street analyst, had never worked on a factory floor in his life. His leadership was built on efficiency metrics, spreadsheets, and delegation. But today, none of those things could save him from the embarrassment of a shutdown. In the corner of the plant, a young man named Granger leaned on a broom, watching quietly. At 17, he worked part-time as a janitor during the summer to help his family back on the outskirts of town. Dressed in a faded t-shirt and dusty jeans, he blended into the industrial backdrop like another piece of equipment. When the head of maintenance, Mr. Corman, spotted him loitering, he snapped, "Tyler, quit gawking and get back to sweeping." Tyler nodded but took one last glance at the broken machine. He knew that type of model. His dad had spent years building similar ones in their home workshop, back when he worked in engineering. Tyler had grown up watching and learning, even helping his father rig up complex circuits and troubleshoot advanced software. He hesitated. Then, gathering his courage, Tyler stepped closer to the group gathered around the machine. "Excuse me," he said, clearing his throat. "I think I might know what's wrong." The group turned to look at him. Jason raised an eyebrow, sizing up the dusty teen. "You?" Jason said, incredulous. "You're the janitor, right?" Tyler nodded. "Yes, sir, but I've worked on machines like this before, just smaller versions." The room burst into laughter. One of the engineers scoffed. "Kid, this isn't some tractor at your farm." Jason crossed his arms. "All right then, Mr. Mechanic. Go ahead, show us what you've got." It was a dare meant to mock him, but Tyler accepted it with a quiet nod. What none of them knew was that the boy's father, Caleb Granger, wasn't just a farmer. He was once one of the top engineers at Halberton, until a company merger led to mass layoffs, and Caleb disappeared from the industry. As Tyler rolled up his sleeves, no one imagined the surprise that was about to unfold. Tyler knelt beside the massive press, his fingers tracing the edges of the control panel like he was greeting an old friend. The crowd of engineers, tech specialists, and executives circled him like spectators at a high-stakes game, waiting for the inevitable failure they could scoff at later. Jason Moore, arms still crossed, watched with narrowed eyes. He leaned over to the plant supervisor. "This is a waste of time. What's he gonna do? Pray the thing back to life?" The supervisor shrugged. "At this point, sir, we've already tried everything." Tyler tapped a few keys on the touchscreen. The interface flickered, then flashed an error message. "Huh," he murmured. "What?" one of the engineers asked, impatient. "The machine's not responding because the primary operating sequence is out of sync with the pressure calibrators. It's trying to engage before the hydraulics are fully warmed, which trips the safety override," Tyler explained almost casually. The group stared at him. "How would you know that?" the senior technician asked. "I've seen it happen before. My dad used to build presses like these for auto plants. He taught me how to reset the sequence using manual override," Tyler said, standing up to grab a nearby access panel key. Jason smirked. "Let me guess. Next you're going to tell me your dad also built the pyramids." But Tyler wasn't rattled. He unlocked the panel and ducked inside the maze of wires and blinking lights. His hands moved with calm precision, like someone who knew the system better than the people who installed it. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Jason shifted uncomfortably. He checked his watch and sighed, already planning how he'd spin this circus act in the next board meeting. Suddenly, a loud clunk echoed from the machine. A green light blinked to life on the control panel. The nearby screen changed from system error to ready. Everyone froze. Tyler stepped out, brushing his hands off on his jeans. "Try it now." An engineer rushed over and cautiously activated the press. The machine hissed, whirred, and then, with a powerful rhythmic thunk, resumed its pressing cycle like it had never stopped. Gasps filled the room. Jason stared, slack-jawed. "What the—" The plant floor erupted in murmurs. "Did that kid really fix it? That thing's been down for 3 hours." "No way." Tyler stood silently, watching the machine perform perfectly. Jason approached him slowly. How did you know that fix? None of our experts caught it." Tyler shrugged. "Like I said, I grew up around machines like this. My dad used to bring home old units. Let me help him rebuild them." Jason rubbed the back of his neck, visibly humbled. "What's your dad's name?" "Caleb Granger," Tyler said simply. Jason stiffened. That name, Caleb Granger, was legendary in Halberton's older circles. The man was once head of engineering before corporate cuts forced him out. Jason suddenly realized this wasn't just a kid with a wrench. This was the son of a man who once helped build the very foundation of Halberton Industries. And Tyler had just saved them all. Jason Moore stood motionless, his mind spinning. Caleb Granger. The name hit like a punch to the gut. Back when Jason was still climbing the corporate ladder in Chicago, Caleb had already made waves in engineering circles. He wasn't just good, he was a visionary. Caleb helped design Halberton's original fleet of robotic presses and precision cutters. His innovations cut production time by 30% and saved the company millions. But during a brutal merger and cost-cutting phase 5 years ago, Caleb's entire department had been axed without ceremony. Now here was his son, Tyler Granger, quietly wiping grease off his hands like fixing a multi-million-dollar machine was just another Tuesday. Jason looked at Tyler, no longer seeing a kid with dusty boots and a broom. He saw something deeper: legacy, skill, and maybe even the key to fixing more than just a broken press. "Well, Tyler," Jason said, trying to keep his voice steady, "you just saved this plant from a major shutdown. I owe you one." Tyler shrugged. "Just glad it's working again." One of the engineers stepped forward. "That sequence bypass, it wasn't in the manual. We wouldn't have thought to check it." "Where'd you even learn that?" asked another. "My dad used to say manuals only tell you what's supposed to happen, not what actually happens when things break," Tyler replied with a modest grin. Jason motioned for the plant supervisor to follow him to a quieter corner of the factory floor. "Why didn't anyone tell me we had Caleb Granger's kid sweeping floors?" The supervisor looked sheepish. "Honestly, I didn't know. We just hired him for summer work. Good kid, always on time. Never talks much." Jason rubbed his temple. "Get HR to pull his file. I want to know everything." Meanwhile, back at the press, a crowd of workers gathered around Tyler. For the first time since he started working at Halberton, people were looking at him with respect. Even Mr. Corman, the gruff maintenance head who'd barked at him hours earlier, gave him a nod of approval. "You ever think about moving into the tech team, son?" Corman asked. "I've thought about it," Tyler admitted, "but college is expensive. I've been saving up, hoping to go into engineering next year." Before Corman could respond, Jason returned, this time with a more serious expression. "Tyler," he said, "how'd you like to trade that broom for a wrench? Starting tomorrow, you'd work as an assistant on the engineering team." Tyler blinked. "Seriously?" "Seriously, full pay. You've earned it." Tyler hesitated. He thought of his dad, how he'd sacrificed everything to keep the family afloat after Halberton let him go. If only he could see this now. "All right," Tyler said, "I'm in." As the machine behind him continued pounding out precision components, Jason stared at the young man with renewed interest. This wasn't just a promotion. It was the beginning of something bigger. Because deep down, Jason knew Tyler Granger wasn't just his newest engineer. He was a reminder of what Halberton used to be, and could be again. That evening, Tyler rode his rusty bike home across the sun-drenched Oklahoma plains. The wind swept through the fields carrying the scent of hay and gasoline. As he pedaled up the gravel driveway of their small farm, He saw his dad out back, kneeling beside an old tractor, elbow deep in grease. "Hey, Pop!" Tyler called, dropping his bike near the porch. Caleb Granger looked up, squinting through his smudged glasses. "You're home late." "Yeah, something happened at the plant." Caleb wiped his hands on a rag and walked over. "Something bad?" Tyler shook his head. "No, actually. One of the machines broke down. The main robotic press. Nobody could fix it." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. You gave it a shot?" Tyler nodded, grinning. "I reset the hydraulic sequence. It worked. The whole factory watched." Caleb chuckled and shook his head. "You always did love poking around those old circuit boards with me. I'm proud of you, son." Tyler hesitated. "They asked me to join the engineering team. Full-time. Starting tomorrow." Caleb froze. "They what?" "Jason Moore himself offered me the job." The mention of that name darkened Caleb's face for a moment. He turned away, staring toward the horizon. "I remember him," he muttered. "Fresh out of college, sharp suit, fast talker. Didn't care much about the people who built the machines. Just the ones who signed the checks." "They didn't even know who you were, Dad," Tyler said quietly. "Nobody did." Caleb sighed and walked over to the porch steps. He sat down, running a hand through his thinning hair. "After they laid me off, I tried to fight it. Thought maybe all those years, all those patents, they'd count for something. But they didn't even send a thank you. I was just erased." Tyler sat beside him. "You weren't erased. You taught me everything I know." There was a long silence as the sun dipped below the trees. Then Caleb smiled faintly. "And now you're going to teach them." The next morning, Tyler arrived at Halberton wearing his cleanest shirt and a fresh pair of jeans. The engineering team welcomed him with claps on the back and a few impressed stares. He was shown to a workstation and given a company badge with a new title, Junior Systems Engineer. Midway through his shift, Jason Moore invited Tyler to his office. "Close the door," Jason said, motioning to the chair across from his desk. Tyler sat, unsure of what to expect. "I did some digging last night," Jason began. "Your dad, Caleb, he was a genius. I read through some of the blueprints he filed. Your work yesterday reminded me of his." Tyler looked down modestly. "He still works with machines, just not the fancy kind." Jason leaned forward. "I want to meet him." Tyler blinked. "Really?" "Yeah," Jason said. "If he's half as sharp as you, we owe him more than just a handshake." As Tyler left the office, a strange feeling settled in his chest. For the first time in years, it felt like the Granger name meant something again. And this time, the world was going to remember it. The next Saturday morning, a company car pulled into the gravel driveway of the Granger farm. Tyler stepped off the porch just as Jason Moore stepped out of the black SUV, adjusting his blazer and looking slightly out of place amid the dust and hay bales. "Mr. Moore," Tyler said, offering a polite nod. "Morning, Tyler. Hope you don't mind the drop-in." "Not at all. He's out back." Jason followed Tyler around the house, his polished dress shoes crunching on gravel. In the backyard, Caleb Granger was bent under the hood of a beat-up Ford pickup, a wrench in hand and a pair of protective goggles strapped across his forehead. "Dad," Tyler called, "we've got company." Caleb stood slowly, wiping his hands. His expression turned wary when he recognized the man standing beside his son. "Jason Moore," he said flatly. "Mr. Granger?" Jason responded, removing his sunglasses. "It's been a long time." Caleb nodded but said nothing. The silence stretched. "I came to thank you," Jason said. "Your son saved my plant, and possibly my job. And after reviewing your files, it's clear to me that letting you go was one of this company's biggest mistakes." Caleb folded his arms. "Took you 5 years to figure that out?" Jason winced. "Fair enough." Caleb looked over at Tyler. "He told me you offered him a position." "I did, and he's already proving to be an asset. But it got me thinking, maybe it's time we fix more than just broken machines." Caleb raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I want to offer you a consulting position," Jason said. "Part-time, flexible hours. You'd work with our engineering teams, help develop next-gen systems. You could even do most of it from here." Caleb blinked. Why the sudden change of heart? Jason sighed. Because I finally realized this company wasn't built by guys like me. It was built by people like you. And if we want to survive, we need to stop ignoring the folks who actually know how things work." Caleb looked at his son. Tyler gave him an encouraging nod. "You'd really let me work from my garage?" Caleb asked. "We'll send you the equipment you need. And full pay," Jason added, "with backdated recognition for your original designs." Caleb stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, he extended his hand. Jason took it. Back inside over coffee and biscuits, they talked for over an hour. Jason listened intently as Caleb described upgrades he'd been tinkering with in his spare time. Things Halberton's engineers had never even considered. By the time the SUV pulled away, Caleb Granger had officially rejoined the company he once helped shape, this time on his terms. And as the sun rose higher over the Oklahoma fields, father and son stood side by side in their backyard workshop, sketching out blueprints that might just change the future of American manufacturing. In the weeks that followed, Caleb Granger's garage transformed from a dusty workshop into a miniature engineering lab. Halberton shipped over a custom workstation, diagnostic tools, and a 3D printer that looked like it belonged in a NASA lab. But Caleb didn't care about the bells and whistles. He was finally doing what he loved again. Each morning, Caleb and Tyler sat side by side, poring over design diagrams, tweaking circuit paths, and modeling prototypes. Tyler split his time between the plant and the farm, juggling his new job and helping his dad. The two had always been close, but now their bond deepened over the shared passion that had once built and broken the Granger legacy. One Saturday, Tyler burst through the garage door holding a thick binder. "Dad, you need to see this," he said, flipping it open to a schematic. Caleb adjusted his glasses and peered down. "Wait a second. This is the old rotary actuator design from 18. "Right, but look here," Tyler said, pointing to a modification he'd added to the digital readout system. "If we reprogram the input buffer to delay the torque engagement by 0.3 seconds, we eliminate the vibration issue that causes long-term fatigue in the gear arms." Caleb stared at the adjustment in disbelief. That's brilliant. You think it would work? It's better than the version I submitted years ago. Let's prototype it." The two worked well into the night, testing Tyler's modified design. By Sunday morning, they had a working model. Caleb uploaded the data to Halberton's secure server, tagging it for executive review. On Monday, Tyler walked into the plant to find Jason Moore already waiting by his workstation. "You and your dad cooked this up over the weekend?" Jason asked, holding the binder in his hand. "Yes, sir. This fixes a problem we've had in our fabrication units for the last 4 years. You just extended their operational lifespan by a decade." Jason looked up, almost speechless. "You've got your dad's mind," he finally said, "but with your own style." Tyler smiled. "He always said I should find my own way to fix things." Later that week, Halberton hosted an internal engineering summit. For the first time in its history, 2 keynotes were delivered from a garage via live stream, one by Caleb Granger, the other by his son. Executives, engineers, and plant workers across the company tuned in as Caleb walked them through the evolution of Halberton's original press designs, while Tyler introduced his actuator enhancement as the next step forward. The stream ended with a standing ovation at headquarters. Halberton's board, moved by the overwhelming support and the flood of innovation the Grangers brought back, formally reinstated Caleb as lead engineering consultant. Tyler was fast-tracked for a senior role on the systems design team. The Grangers were no longer just employees. They were becoming legends within the company, and they were just getting started. By early fall, Halberton Industries was buzzing with a new energy, one that hadn't been felt in years. Innovation, once stifled by red tape and rigid structure, was thriving again. And at the center of it all were 2 names that had once been forgotten: Caleb and Tyler Granger. Jason Moore stood in front of a crowd at the company's annual Innovation Expo in Dallas, holding a microphone as the massive projector behind him displayed a prototype of the newly dubbed Granger Drive actuator. "This design didn't come from a Fortune 500 research lab," Jason began. "It came from a garage in rural Oklahoma, from a father and son who reminded us what it means to build from the ground up." The crowd erupted in applause as Tyler stepped onto the stage beside him. Moments later, the camera cut to a live feed of Caleb, sitting proudly at his workbench, nodding to the cheering audience. Later that evening, back at the Granger farm, the family gathered for dinner under string lights Tyler had helped hang across the porch. His mom passed around a dish of fried chicken, while Caleb quietly sipped sweet tea, watching his son tell stories about the factory floor, with a spark in his eyes. "You know," Caleb said after a while, "when they let me go, I thought that was the end of my story. But turns out, you were just getting ready to write the next chapter." Tyler smiled. "You gave me the tools. I just built something with them." Caleb looked across the table at his wife and son, then up at the stars beginning to scatter across the sky. "It's funny," he said softly. "When I worked at Halberton the first time, I thought legacy was about machines that lasted decades. But now, I think legacy's more about the people who carry your work forward." A few weeks later, Jason Moore paid another visit to the farm. This time he wasn't wearing a suit. He wore jeans and a plaid shirt, carrying a manila envelope. "This is for you, Caleb," he said, handing over the folder. Caleb opened it. Inside was an official patent reissue, this time listing both Caleb and Tyler Granger as co-inventors of the updated actuator system. Attached was a licensing deal and royalty contract. "I can't accept this," Caleb said, surprised. "Yes, you can," Jason replied. "You earned it. Both of you did. The company's not just fixing machines anymore. We're fixing what we broke, starting with people." As the sun dipped behind the distant hills and the sound of cows mooing echoed faintly in the background, Caleb nodded slowly. "You've come a long way, Mr. Moore." Jason smiled. "Thanks to you." That night, under the Oklahoma stars, father and son stood outside the garage, looking over the land they'd worked with their hands, the company they'd rebuilt with their minds, and the bond that had turned into something bigger than either ever imagined. The Granger name had come full circle, and this time, it was etched into the heart of Halberton, for good. The story of Caleb and Tyler Granger is a powerful reminder that true innovation comes from honoring the people behind the work, and that sometimes the key to the future lies in reconnecting with the past. Their journey shows how resilience, skill, and family legacy can revive not just a company, but a whole community. If you're inspired by the Granger story, think about the hidden talents and untold stories in your own workplace or community. How can you support and uplift those who quietly keep things running? Sometimes the next big breakthrough starts with listening and giving someone a chance to shine.